I am standing today in front of Lockehaven Inn. Lockehaven Inn was built in the 1700s. As you can see, it is a center chimney house. It was also built as a half house, which shows inside of the house that it was built up to this doorway until the family needed a larger home and added onto it. This is the front of the house, even though it does not face toward the road, which was a dirt road at the time. It faces toward the meeting house in the center of town, and it faces toward the sun.
This is the half house that was built and stopped at the front door in the 1700s. Then in the early 1800s, in the federal period, the mirror image of the left-hand side was built on the right-hand side with 2 windows up and 2 windows down. This is what the center chimney looked like and the construction of the post and beam.
Interestingly, people think that this is the front door to the house because it's on the road. But it's not. The front door faced south, and this door is called the coffin door. And the reason it's called the coffin door is you could not get a coffin into the front hallway because of the stairway. This was a straight shot into the keeping room. That's where people were mourned in the 1700s.
Let's go inside through the coffin door and see what it looks like. This is standing in the keeping room, looking at the coffin door, and see how it is a straight shot in. Lockehaven is a post and beam house. In here, you can see the pegs in the beams holding the house together. If you look in the corners, this is called a gun stock. And it is wide on the top and goes narrower as it goes down to the bottom. Thus the name gunstock.
Another way to age your house is by the laths that are behind your wall siding or sheetrock or the horsehair plaster. This is called split lath, where they would take a whole board and they would split it and then put the filling of the plaster in between. Whereas later, when there were sawmills, all these boards would be the same size and they would not be split. In the attic, you can see these huge boards. They are called king pines. And I'll tell you the story about king pines. Don Brown took one of the king pines out of the attic, and I'll show you what he did with it. This is what Don Brown did with the king pine board out of the attic. He made a dining room table out of it. The jug that sits in the middle of the table was found in the ground on this property when the septic system was being put in. He turned the legs of the table on his lathe. And this board is the original end that was cut off of the king pine board that was up in the attic. It is actually 31 inches wide. And how did he get that board out of the attic? There's a trap door on the roof. And what was a king pine? Before the Revolutionary War in 1776, the king marked all the large pine trees in New England to be used for the masts on his naval ships. In 1734, close to Chester, in Fremont, New Hampshire, local lumbermen illegally cut down mass trees,
which caused a riot.
And here up in the attic, you see the original siding of the house before the second addition was added onto the house. This is the half house. And then very interesting is I am going to talk about a Beverly jog. And this roof line in the attic shows the roof line of the Beverly jog.
Here is the half house, and the new addition is called the Beverly jog, which was usually built for a home occupation.
I am often asked why there is a railing on my upstairs stairway on a blank wall. And this was one of the proofs that this was a half house, because right here there would have been a hallway, a very short hallway, and the house ended right there. And there's the gunstock beam where the end of the house was. Another clue is the moldings. The moldings that are in the new section are more federal in the early 1800s, whereas the upstairs bedroom on the other side of the house that was built in the early 1700s does not have the moldings are different, but also it does not have a mantle. Mantles were not used in the 1700s, not until the federal period. If you look closely between the boards, you'll see what is called live edge boards, where you still see the bark between the boards on these floors in Lockehaven. Another interesting fact about Lockehaven and some other homes in Chester also are these large granite slabs for hearths. We had a gentleman called the House Whisperer come to Chester and present a program, and he said he had never seen so many granite slab fireplaces in one town. They're usually brick hearths. Lockehaven has these original Indian shutters still in the house, which are original to the house. Can you just imagine living here and fearing for the life of your family that Indians may attack? Here is a small piece of the original stenciling at Lockehaven. It's been thought to have been done by the border man, which traveled from town to town for room and board, stenciling the homes. There are a couple in Chester that have had it documented. Over here is the original staircase. And in this door is something amazing. It is a meat drying room, which is, so I've been told, one of the largest in the area. They are usually on the top of the staircase, just a small box. But this one is extremely large that you could actually walk right into. It backs up to the center chimney and would be warm enough to dry your meat for the winter.
Postcards of Lockehaven Inn were sold during the turn of the century at Wilkham's store to many of the summer vacationers now that the trolley could bring them to town. Why is it called Lockehaven? For 150 years, the descendants of John Locke lived in Lockehaven. John Locke came to Rye, New Hampshire in 1665 from England. He was in his field in Rye when an Indian killed him, but before he died, he cut the Indian's nose off with his sickle. His likeness and the sickle are in the New Hampshire Historical Society Museum. There is a state marker in Rye on Locke's Road. This area is called Loch Ness. He bought property in Chester for his grandson, which was located near the branch. It took me years to learn where the branch was, and I found it was the river branching on the Raymond line. This is the property of the first Locke house in Chester. The cellar hole to this house is located across the street from Rod and Gun Club Road. Lockehaven was not built by the Lockes, but the family lived over 150 years in the house. This is a photo of Abigail Locke. She was born in 1795 in Chester. She married Captain John Moore. I'm not positive which of the two Locke homes they lived in. This is a photo of James Locke. James Locke served in the Civil War. He was a cooper. A cooper made barrels, and possibly his business was in the Beverly Jog part of the house. This is his barrel stamp, which was found on a board used inside of a wall. I had it put in the deed when we sold the house so that it will always be part of the house. This is James Locke's daughter, Eleanor. Eleanor inherited the home. She was a teacher in Chester until she retired in the late 1800s. It was then that she turned the home into Lockehaven Inn from 1800 to 1936. During the renovations of the home, a handmade sign that says "Chicken dinner's $1" was found inside the walls. This is a photo of Eleanor's key to her trunk, which was found in the attic. Eleanor and James are both buried in the village cemetery. Eleanor had no children and left Lockehaven Inn to her niece, which was a Locke also. She continued on Lockehaven as an inn, and this was the business card that was used by her. She married Carroll Backman. He was secretary for the International Commission of the YMCA, traveling all over the nation to work with young people. It was here in the backyard of Lockehaven Inn that Backman Florist, yes, the Backman Florist of Derry, New Hampshire, which still exists, started. They had greenhouses in the back of the property. The Locke family has the oldest family association in the United States. They meet every single year. On this old Chester map, the M lot stands for minister. Reverend Flagg owned this property, and if my research goes right, his daughter may have been born in this house and was the grandmother of Daniel Chester French, the sculptor of the Lincoln Memorial. I would like to thank Bob Tattersall for the architectural drawings.